Hello everyone, my name is Noah Raven and welcome to the Xander Zone. In today's episode, we'll be discussing not just the Into the Pit game, but all the Easter eggs within it and how it correlates as to how these stories could fill into the games. Now, since the game is somewhat fresh, about a month from when the game released, I will put a spoiler warning as this will be covering Easter eggs, secrets, and the ending of the game. So if you want to play the game yourself or go watch a playthrough, which if you do, I so ironically have a series up on my channel for it. I recommend you go watch it. However, let's get into how this video is going to be structured. First, we will cover how the Frights books that are games are connected to the games. Essentially, how is it possible? Next is the evidence for this theory that will cover everything from Easter eggs, secrets, and story aspects. Next is the issues, which will try to challenge our evidence as well as the possibility of this theory. Then we will share the story of the Frights books in the games, assuming it were to be canon to the games. Then we'll discuss the story issues to point out any possible issues, as well as point out possible solutions to those issues. Then my final thoughts on the theory in terms of how I like the theory, and how likely I think it is. Then of course, will be my outro. Now as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please do hit that like and subscribe button, as we do have a goal of 2,000 subs by the end of the month. While you're at it, comment down below your thoughts, theories, disagreements, or really anything. Just remember to keep it kind, calm, and respectful. Share this video with your friends and family, and remember, this is just a FNAF theory. Now, without further ado, let's get right into the video. Okay, so before you yell at me, people on the other side of this screaming that the books aren't in the games because they're separate universes, I hear ya. I am skeptical of the books being in the games too, but let me explain how it would be possible if they were before you start yelling at me in the comments. So, the main worry about the books being in the games is how they'll mess with the games, and what if I were to tell you this? Everyone is wrong on how they work and what they're meant for. The books don't mess with the games, but the games mess with the books. Essentially, Into the Pit Spring Bonnie is a result of the dark remnant forming in this MCI Freddy's location, which I also suspect to be Fredbear's family diner a few years prior. The books know about the games and have to deal with the consequences of the actions and events of the games. However, the games don't know about the books, nor do the books cause things in the games, at least as of right now, unless you want to consider Mimic. So, the books take place in the same universe as the games, and even in the same locations. However, the books are not important to the games, but the games are important to the books, essentially just existing to explain things to us that may pop up in games later. Now, here's the last thing I want to bring up. So far from Into the Pit, here are the stories that I can connect to the game universe based off of the stories we see in the Into the Pit game. We have Fetch, To Be Beautiful, Count the Ways, Drowning, and Kids at Play. Now, this one I need help on. In the backstage area in 1985, you can see this weird like cat or pig or dog or whatever it is animatronic. If you know what this could be and what story, please let me know, as I and people in my Twitch chat could not piece this together. Anyways, I'll get into the kind of timeline of when the books take place and the evidence. So now that we have it all laid out, let's get into the evidence. Okay, so before we get into the evidence, I will section it in a way that's easier to follow. First we will do Into the Pit's evidence, then Fetch, then Count the Ways, then To Be Beautiful. Now let's get into the evidence, and for our first piece of evidence as well, the posters we can see throughout the game. I would name them separately, but I'll point out the ones of note. The Fredbear posters are the most important ones, as we literally see those in FNAF Ruin as collectibles. Next piece of evidence we have here is these ghost kids. Now, I haven't seen many people point these kids out, and well, I want to say this. Normally you see the two of them, being this one with curly or poofier hair, and the other one in a hat, usually doing things together. However, in this scene I captured on screen, there's three of them. The two we saw before, and a random kid in a yellow shirt. I think what you're seeing here is either Cassidy telling Andrew and Jake what happened to him. Now, this is a whole different theory I'll cover later. However, if this kid in the yellow shirt is Cassidy, that's a very important game character crossing over into the book game. It also isn't out of character for Cassidy to do something like this, as we see Cassidy telling Crying Child what happened to them and that they're no longer alive in the security logbook. Though this could also be Kimberly from Fetch, as she matches the kid on the right having long black hair. This would mean the kid on the left with brown hair is Jake and the center is Andrew. Next is this is my bombshell for this video. This game isn't the book. In the book Into the Pit, Oswald does not save any children. So what I'm thinking is that this game is a recreation of the book for the game universe. That's just one of many differences in the story from the book to the game. So let me know what you think of that one. Next is when Into the Pit takes place, and if you remember, there was a website that wasn't released to the public called jeffsclub.com, and in that website, one of the codes says visitor number 202385. If Oswald is in 2023, then that means this game takes place in August of 2023, which would ironically be before FNAF 3, but only a few months before, most likely since fazbear Frights was most likely a Halloween attraction, let's be honest. Next is this location. Being Jeff's is most likely the Fredbear's Family Diner location. Since the doors are red, you have an entrance, a long diner area, and a stage at the end, which in the back odds are is where the crying child was hidden in the backstage or basement area in FNAF 4. Now, you're probably saying, but the doors don't add up, and to that I say, Scott's story in FNAF 4 has obviously changed a lot. Dude even forgot what the FNAF 4 box even had in it. So I think adding a door or two is fine, let's be honest here. Ironically, the street in which this location would be on would be the exact same layout in which you have to walk in FNAF 4 to get to Fredbear's. Down the road, a left turn, and into Fredbear's you go. So if this location was Fredbear's due to the style of the location and the posters and where it would be located, what's up with the other books that are referenced? But really, before we get into that, I got one more piece of evidence for this, and it's this secret phone number you can dial, in which you hear William Afton get spring locked. Now, we don't know which one this could be, as some people have interpreted it as the one that wasn't fatal, but that's all speculation. So for now, we'll go with the one that is fatal. If that happens here in the game of Into the Pit, then odds are this can help us confirm that the books know of the games, but the games don't know of the books. Well, this is where we get into Fetch. Fetch takes place pre-1985 in the games. As you can see, Fetch takes place at this location since it's literally the same layout as for easier name at this point, Jeff's Pizza, but with some party hats and other things. I mean, odds are if the MCI takes place in June of 1985, Fetch takes place sometime after the Bite of 83 and before the 1985 MCI. I'm more inclined to say 1984 for easier sake for now, but that's our time frame for Fetch. Also, this has nothing to do with the theory, but can we just say how weird it is that Jeff is so against sharing what happened at the location before he owned it to Oswald if you call Jeff's Pizza in the game? Next is Count the Ways. Now, this one is more for interpretation, but I placed this one sometime after the 1985 MCI and before FNAF 2. However, it could have happened later depending where you place sister location. The reason for this is if you think Elizabeth died earlier in the timeline, then odds are it shut down, and a year or two later, what I'm thinking here is 1986 Count the Ways happens, and the circus rental was opened the same year, which is why if you place sister location a few years later, why it mentions the recent closing of Freddy Fazbear's. Or if you have the bunker open a little bit after FNAF 2, it still works. And FNAF sister location happening sometime after FNAF 2 or after or during FNAF 1, which, by the way, Drowning, I can connect to Count the Ways, but timeline wise, I can't piece that story together. However, in Drowning, the kid in it is followed by a girl in black hair, black clothes, and green eyes, which is exactly how Millie looks in the game representation of Count the Ways. So just a little speculation there. Next is To Be Beautiful, and this is the most confusing piece. When it happens, it could happen after 1985 MCI or after FNAF 2 or sometime after FNAF 1, but it can't happen after Into the Pit most likely, though it is possible since the mill is kind of like a trash place, so maybe To Be Beautiful happens after Into the Pit. That one is still to interpretation, to be honest. So let me know what you think of that one in the comments down below, but let's get into the issues. Okay, so let's get right into the issues with the evidence I've brought up, and the first one is flat out connecting the games to the books and vice versa. Yeah, there are similar aspects, but nothing flat out confirms that. Yeah, it's odd that Bonnie lifts up his face to look like Withered Bonnie for a second, and we have the Fredbear posters and so many other things, but in terms of flat out seeing a character from the games that's like, oh my god, that's just only possible in the games, that's hard to do. Or is it? Look at the mill. In the garbage to the left, you can see a Funtime Freddy head. Now, my theory is that Pizza Sim is also the same location as Fredbear's, so odds are it's the same as the 1985 MCI and so on and so forth. If that's the case, then this is also where the Pizzaplex was built, meaning that the Blob could have gotten his Funtime Freddy head from this dumpster, which is where I also say that odds are the mill was meant to make animatronics for Fredbear's, the 1985 location, and the circus rental bunker, as Oswald was good with machines due to his father sneaking him into the place to learn about the stuff he worked on, which is also why he can somehow perfectly free a child from a spring lock suit without triggering it to snap shut, which is why these locations all shut down. The town also felt economic wise too, as that was essentially the main job source in town. Next is, how do I know when these games take place? I mean, Into the Pit is from an unreleased website, and others are pretty much speculation outside of Fetch. To that I say, yeah, you're right. However, we know Into the Pit takes place in a more recent time, closer to modern day, but not so far into the future to where we have something like the Glam Rocks. So odds are Into the Pit would have to happen pre-FNAF 3, since if those two ghost kids are Andrew and Jake, then odds are they aren't in Stitch Wraith yet, meaning they aren't at the point where they would be in the books yet. Though with Fetch, it is the same location with party hats and things like that. So either this happens right after the 1985 MCI, or before it, as we know this location closed not too long after the 1985 MCI. Though count the ways and all the stuff associated with it outside of drowning is honestly speculation, since this location is still a major debate, so where I place it is just my opinion based off of what I believe in FNAF. Otherwise, it's just a matter of, what do you believe in this sense? Since there's evidence that the games are here in terms of layout and just what happens in the game of Into the Pit. Essentially, is this enough evidence to convince you or not? I'll let you decide, but let's get into the story of this book game if it was canon to the games universe. Okay, so let's get into the story of these books that were seen in the Into the Pit game and the game itself if they were canon to the games. In 1983, Fredbear's Family Diner closed due to two tragedies happening. However, the local entrepreneur William started to make Circus Baby's Pizza World, while Henry made Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Circus Baby's had a rough start, as on its first day, William's daughter Elizabeth was scooped by Circus Baby as a result of her programming and Elizabeth just not listening to William. However, to save face, William blamed the closing on a gas leak. It promised that people would still be able to experience Circus Baby and her friends very soon. The Freddy Fazbear's location was thriving really well and was not just keeping the bills paid, but the town thriving with the mill making parts for the upcoming circus rental bunker and this location. However, on a horrible evening, William Afton geared up in his yellow bunny suit and shut down the power, disabling the cameras and making it hard for people to see. In this panic, William lured 5 kids and unalived them, causing a panic as people didn't know what was happening, but they knew it was bad. At the end of this, William stuffed the 5 kids into suits, took off the spring bonnie suit, and left without a trace. No one knew what happened or who could have done it. However, pretty closely after the MCI at Freddy Fazbear's, an innocent kid was unalived by the new and state-of-the-art Fetch animatronic After Hours. However, this kid's body was never found, and the Fetch animatronic was put on a shelf in this recreation, in the ball pit being controlled by Pit Spring Bonnie. However, these two incidents resulted in the abrupt closing of the location, as 5 missing children and 1 confirmed to be unalived by a dog robot was too much. So to let things die down, they closed and sold the location to a man named Jeff. However, as Jeff knew what happened at the location, he didn't know what was in that ball pit until many years later. However, after the closing of this, the opening of Circus Baby's rental was getting ready to have its proper first debut. So one of the local technicians had to clean and repair Funtime Freddy. However, this technician's kid didn't listen to the warnings of this technician to never go near the Funtime Freddy animatronic, and she crawled inside of the stomach hatch of Funtime Freddy. Funtime Freddy then trapped the poor kid named Millie and educated her on all the ways that she could die, being dehydration, starvation, electrocution, impalement, boiled alive, and decapitation. At the end, she chooses decapitation and does indeed pass away. This tragedy, however, was covered up again, and Funtime Freddy was still cleaned and repaired, and the bunker opened on schedule. Now with the animatronics being repaired and cleaned, and no new locations opening as of late, the mill did close, as William only needed a few technicians, with Henry working on a new location to release in 1987 as a new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and him only needing a few technicians, so the mill closed due to it not being needed anymore. The events of the games play out in FNAF 2, FNAF 1, and Sister Location as we know it. However, in August of 2023, Oswald, annoyed with his father, goes inside of a ball pit and goes back in time to 1985 and witnesses the MCI take place, while being chased by the Agony Being. That is what I'll be naming for shorter name use, Pit Bonnie. However, at the end of this, Oswald saves 5 children and unalives this Pit Bonnie by the end of it. However, Jeff goes to investigate the blood left behind by Oswald instead, gets unalived by the agony-ridden Pit Bonnie, angry that its recreation was ruined by Oswald. Jeff's was closed shortly after as a result of no one else being able to run the location. FNAF 3 happens, and eventually Jeff's Pizza is bought out by Henry for a pizza sim, in which the location is burned down, freeing the spirits of Baby, the MCI, Charlotte, but someone wasn't very happy with William. Though I'll let you decide if it was Andrew or Cassidy that did this. However, odds are to me it was Cassidy, since Andrew has black hair and the vengeful spirit has blonde hair, though what happens is UCN. Cassie attaches himself to William and torments him in his mind until he is satisfied with what has happened. Andrew and Jake, however, stick around to clean up all the mess that was left behind after the fire, leading us into modern FNAF today. Now, please stick around to the end, as I will explain something that may be confusing you involving the ball pit and how it works. Okay, so let's get into the issues with the story, and the first one is when Sister Location takes place, and honestly, that's going to be an issue with any timeline like this. Though, I think it opens sometime in 1984, and shuts down 1984. Circus Rental opens in late 1985 or in 1986, and the game doesn't happen until later. Next is the Tales books, and the reason why I didn't cover them here is because 1, we got no reference to them in the Into the Pit game, and 2, that's just a whole different theory for another time. Next is the ball pit and how it works. I personally think it isn't an actual time travel thing, but rather a recreation of events in the game created by this Pit Bonnie, meaning the kids we save aren't actually real, and the 3 spirits we see are those who died to this Pit Bonnie in this like fake universe, or as a result of this fake universe, as obviously things from this ball pit can come to the real world. So you could technically place Fetch right after the 1985 MCI, as it's totally possible that happened, though I don't know how likely that is since the room in which the MCI took place in was boarded up. Though you could interpret you not being able to go into Fetch's room until after you get the balloons as it being boarded up, then you could argue that happens after the MCI. For now, that one is up for interpretation. Then there's that 3rd spirit. Honestly, at the moment, it makes more sense for it to be Kimberly, but who knows at the current moment. Though if Fetch was brought from this Agony universe, it makes sense why Kimberly is in this pit, which means Fetch is after the MCI, so I'm leaning towards that. But it had to happen really quickly after the MCI. So essentially what I'm saying is that Fetch happens in our world as a result of Pit Bonnie putting him there. Though those are all the issues I could find, but let me know if there's any other ones you caught in the comments. Just remember to keep it kind, calm, respectful, and it's just a theory. Alright, so honestly this theory, I have to rate a 7 out of 10. I think it's pretty possible, however the biggest issue is when certain things take place and how it connects. But I think of it as Pit Bonnie being able to cause things in his agony pit, and brings things from that pit into the real world to cause things, and yeah. Though, I want to hear your thoughts on this theory, and your own theories on it. I know this is a controversial topic, but I thought I'd touch on it after avoiding it for almost a full year. Alright, and that is all that I have for this episode. So, before I start getting into it, sorry if it's a little sloppier than usual. I'm a little discombobulated, because I cranked this out, and I'm not even joking, in less than 24 hours. I started recording this at about 4 p.m. last night, so this is Sunday now, and I'm just about finishing this, like recording this outro bit at 2:37 p.m. my time, so just under 24 hours I was able to crank this video out for you all. And if you're wondering why I'm doing this on such short notice, I was going to have the finale to like the Molten MCI, Rockstar MCI, Remnant MCI, and Springtrap MCI series just kind of put out there for Monday, just wrap it up. That's the end of that MCI whole entire series, but there was an issue with it, and I had to delay it, but it's going to be very worth it. I will say that I am working with another YouTuber on it who will be in the video. It's a very long and intensive script, and oh boy, y'all are going to either love that video or absolutely hate it. There's going to be no in between with it. That's all I'm going to say on it. But, yeah, I just want to say I really do hope you all enjoyed this video. I tried my best to make it look as good as possible in what short amount of time I had. And this video was going to come out later after the MCI series, but things had to change. So, yeah, again, I really do hope you all enjoyed this. And again, with things like Stitch Wraith and things like that, when I wrote the script, that Easter egg wasn't even found yet, and all those things. So please do pay attention to those editor's notes throughout the video, and I'm just hoping that it was easy to follow along like the rest of my videos, but we'll see what flack I might get. But yeah, I also do want to mention that I am posting like shorts and clips on YouTube now and TikTok, because my streaming setup now allows me to make clips a lot easier off of my Twitch. It makes it so much easier with editing them, getting them, and things like that. So if you'd like to either be a part of them or just see them happen live, go to my Twitch. It's in the description at twitch.tv/NoahRaven. I always have a lot of fun streaming with you all. I'm going to be doing some FNAF Sister Location custom night soon. I'm going to be doing more Lethal Company, some Phasmophobia, Dead by Daylight, Poppy Playtime, Bendy, kind of all that stuff, basically. Dark Deception is one that I might do, but we'll see. But yeah, if you'd like to join, I'm live, at least for now. College is starting tomorrow for me, so when this video comes out, I currently stream every single Friday at 12 p.m. CST, and most Sundays at 8 p.m. CST. It kind of depends how my body's feeling and just what I need to get done. So yeah, I hope to see you all there. But yeah, again, I hope you all did enjoy this video and that you're excited for that finale video, because we are working very, very hard on it. And well, as always, if you enjoyed, please do hit that like and subscribe button, as we do have a goal of 2,000 subs by the end of the month. While you're at it, comment down below really anything in the whole wide world, your theories, thoughts, or your just anything in the world. And just make sure to keep it kind, calm, respectful, and to remember that it's just a theory. We can have differing opinions. Share this video with your friends and family, as every single bit helps. And well, that's all I have for today's episode. So as always, I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day. Stay safe, and peace out.